This guy right here, Nuit de l'homme, I'm sure you've seen this one around. This was one of those men's designer fragrances that really kind of changed the path and changed the direction of how colognes are produced. Because for the longest time, it's been all about the freshies, you know, the citrus aromatics, the aromatic fougères, all of these fragrances in those types of genres, utilizing lavender, utilizing lemon, bergamot, citrus, maybe a bit of a minty geranium, and just, you know, some woody notes and stuff. There's just kind of been that traditional type of scent that's been going around for a long time. Not only that, but you also have some kind of fresher aquatic fragrances, like some of the Nautica fragrances, Nautica Blue, Nautica Rush, Nautica Voyage, all of those freshies. That's been what men's fragrances have been all about for the longest time. But sometimes a designer brand will take a step back, look at everything that's going on, and put out something that is different, that is unique, and that will really get people excited. That is what Nuit de l'homme is all about. They have spawned a number of flankers in this Nuit de l'homme line, and today we're going to be going over all of them, so I'm back with another one of those buying guide videos. Now, it's important to note that this is just going to be covering the Nuit de l'homme flankers. If you want to be technical, Nuit de l'homme in a way is kind of like a flanker of l'homme, so I'm not going to be covering any of the l'homme flankers in this video. It's going to be all Nuit de l'homme. If I was covering the l'homme fragrances in this video as well, it would just be way too long and really pretty hard to digest, so that's going to be a separate video. I'm going to be going over all of the l'homme flankers, which there are more of them than Nuit de l'homme flankers, and that'll be coming later on. Today, we're going to make it easy, we're going to make it digestible for you, make it simple. I'm just going to be covering Nuit de l'homme and all of its flankers. I'm going to tell you just a brief rundown on all of them, give you a gestalt, tell you what I get from them in terms of performance, and at the end of the video, I'll just tell you which one or which ones I think are really worth picking up and checking out. And like always, I will provide links to all of these fragrances down below to discounters. That's the best way to go to pick these up. That way you're saving quite a bit of money off of retail. You can grab all of these for a nice discount by using those links down below. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get into this one here. We have a lot to cover. First up, of course, we got to start somewhere, and that's going to be with the OG, where it all started. And just as an aside, going forward, I'm not going to be placing these in any particular order. I'm not going off a release date. I'm just kind of putting them in the order which I think works best, which is just kind of, hey, that looks good, let's put them in this order and talk about them. This one has cardamom, lavender, and cedarwood as a few of the main notes. This right here is what started that cardamom craze. I would say for a lot of people out there, when someone asks them, hey, you know, what's a good fragrance that has a nice cardamom note in it, 99% of people are going to point at this fragrance right here for good reason. It has a nice, sexy, oriental cardamom note. The lavender comes through, kind of giving it a little bit of a slight fuzziness, a little bit of a clean smell. The cedar wood gives it a nice woody, masculine base, bit of a dry cedar wood. So the fragrance is kind of powdery, kind of warm, but it's also a little bit of a dry profile as well, coming from that cedar wood. Also just kind of coming from even the cardamom in a little bit. Just a spicy, dry, warm, spicy, woody, sexy fragrance. It's very alluring. It's great for an evening out. Nuit de l'homme, I don't need to describe this one to you too much, but of course it had to be in here. And really, I mean, if you were to ask me what one of the best date night fragrances for men would be, to this day, I would still say Nuit de l'homme is up there. This and Dolce & Gabbana, the one Eau de Parfum, are probably two of the best date fragrances you can buy that's on the designer side, and that still holds true in 2021. There are tons of other options, tons of other fragrances would work, but still, I think this one here is an OG, and even though it is popular, it still works fantastic in a date night, close encounter setting. Now let's go and talk about performance. This is where you can go down the rabbit hole. There's been reformulations and all of that. I'm not talking about that here today. I've done a separate video on the Nuit de l'homme batches, the different formulations. On my skin, on average, usually it's about a 7 to 8 hour scent. So really, that's better than what a lot of people claim they get. I think some people maybe embellish, some people maybe truly don't get good performance from it, but I've always gotten pretty consistent 7 to 8 hours on my skin. That can always change, it can always vary, but usually right around there is where it works. Now, once you get to that point, the projection has dialed back quite a bit. Being an eau de toilette, this one will project and pop off the skin pretty good when you first apply it. After about an hour, hour and a half, pushing 2 hours, it will die down, become more intimate, and it'll stay that way through the remainder of the scent. So it's not a loud, obnoxious fragrance. It's really pretty mild. It's pretty subdued. But for a DNA like this, that's really what you would want. A date night fragrance doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to shout across the room. You want it to be a little bit more refined so people can discover it on you. Up next, we have La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum. So, like I said, I'm not putting these in like a chronological order because this is, I believe, the newest flanker, actually, of La Nuit de l'Homme. And we have 4 more to cover after this one. So it's not going in any correct order. Just I figured Eau de Toilette, following after that an Eau de Parfum, just straightforward. La Nuit de l'Homme EDP would be a simple way to put it here. This one has cardamom, it's got leather, it's got tonka bean. So for me, I find that this one does kind of stray farther away from the original La Nuit de l'Homme than I would like it to. You know, you see this, you see La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum, straightforward. It's not Le Parfum, it's not L'Intense, it's just La Nuit de l'Homme EDP. You're expecting something that is going to smell pretty similar to the original, just maybe stronger, kind of like we get with Dolce & Gabbana, the one EDT versus EDP. But you don't really get that here with this one. It does smell quite a bit different than the Eau de Toilette. The cardamom spice is still there, not nearly as forward as the original Eau de Toilette. The leather comes through, gives it a bit of a masculine, just ever so slightly touch of an animalic feel. And then, of course, the tonka bean gives it this powdery sweetness, kind of a playful type of smell like tonka bean could sometimes come across. Just a designer's type of smell. You know, for me, La Nuit de l'Homme EDP doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I would say this is probably my least favorite flanker of the line. So just putting that out there. I normally save my thoughts like that till the end of the video, but just to be straightforward with you now. But performance on my skin really is about on par with the Eau de Toilette. It's a 7 to 8 hour scent. Will push out moderately when you first spray it on, and then it'll die down to more of an intimate scent after, you know, the first couple hours. Up next, we do have La Nuit de l'Homme Eau Electrique. So this guy caught a fair bit of hype when it first came out, and even still does get some hype as of now. This one has apple, tonka bean, vanilla, geranium, and lavender as a few of the main notes. So if you sit down and you think what that sounds kind of similar to, yeah, it kind of smells a little bit like Versace Eros. Now this doesn't have mint listed as a note, but it does have geranium. And if you're a fan of aromatic fougères, you know, barbershop style scents, a lot of them use geranium, and you'll find that those fragrances sometimes will have a little bit of a minty type of smell. And there's not mint listed as a note. A lot of times that is coming from the geranium. So you're getting that minty geranium here from this one. You're getting the apple, which is very prominent in Eros. Of course, the vanilla tonka bean mixture, very popular in Eros. Yeah, there's no surprise. This one actually does smell a bit like Eros. If you've heard that around and you weren't sure what to believe, yeah, there's some similarities for sure. Now, it's not quite as bubblegummy and loud and playful as Eros. I mean, there's nothing that does it quite like Eros, but this one does put you in that same category for sure. So for some of you, that's going to be awesome. For some of you, that's going to be a hard pass. For me, I'm kind of indifferent. I like Eros mostly just because, I mean, it's just kind of a fun scent and it does smell good. It's not really something I reach for or wear anymore, but, you know, it's hard to deny that it was a successful, popular scent. And so because of that, following over to La Nuit de l'Homme Eau Electrique, you know, it's all right. I mean, it's definitely a bit more of a different twist on Eros. You know, you still do kind of allude to that La Nuit de l'Homme feel a little bit from that lavender in here. It just kind of has that kind of inviting, sexy smell to it. But again, this is one where not really one of my favorites. It does smell nice, and from a mass appeal and compliment standpoint, this one here will be one of your better options from the line. Great fragrance, great compliment polar, and really pretty versatile as well on my skin. Usually about 7 hours or so on average in terms of longevity. Projection, I do find this one to push off my skin a little bit more and a little bit stronger than the previous fragrances we talked about, and that will kind of carry through for longer as well. So I get consistently better projection from this one up until, you know, 3-4 hour mark. It'll start to die down a little bit, but this one does push out pretty good. Up next, we have La Nuit de l'Homme Le Parfum. This one has fruits, pepper, vanilla, and lavender as a few of the main notes in this one. So that fruitiness comes through up top right away. A little bit of that spicy pepper in here, kind of giving you the spicy kick in replacement of cardamom. So there's not really a cardamom note in here, but there is the pepper giving it just a little bit of a spicy kick. And then you get the vanilla coming through, giving it kind of a warm, smooth sweetness, and the lavender, which again kind of is throwing back to the original La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Toilette. You're getting that lavender and pepper in here versus the lavender and cardamom in the Eau de Toilette of La Nuit de l'Homme. So while it's not the same, it does give you that similar vibe, just with a little bit of a different twist, a little bit more fruity freshness up top, and that kind of gives it a bit more of a mass appealing type of smell, whereas the original doesn't have a whole lot of fruitiness or citrus really at all. This one does. It introduces that, making it a bit better for perhaps maybe spring, early summer, and also just making it a bit easier to pull off for a lot of people. While some of the other flankers we've tried so far haven't been really my favorite, this one here is one that I really do like. I think this is really well done. Again, for someone who wants to be unique, you want to stand out a little bit, and maybe the original La Nuit de l'Homme is just too popular for you to really want to wear often, you can go with Le Parfum. It's going to push you away from that DNA while still alluding to it a little bit, but you're also getting nice mass appeal from that fruity freshness in here, and you get that nice sweet undertone. It's appealing to a lot of people, some who like fresh, some who like sweet. Really well done scent here, Le Parfum. Performance on my skin, usually about 8.5 hours. So this one lasts a little bit longer than some of the other ones. It really does stick around on the skin for a while. It's got some depth to it, and it's got some good longevity to follow up with that. Projection is going to be kind of typical of the other ones. It's not a monstrous scent. It is one that is a little bit more reserved. The first couple hours, it'll pop off. Following that, it will settle down pretty quickly and just be more of a personal bubble type of scent. Really nice one here. Second to last flanker we're going to be covering is La Nuit de l'Homme L'Intense. So this one is interesting, and it goes in a bit of a different direction than the others. This one has iris, tonka bean, violet, and vanilla as a few of the main notes. So there's a couple ones in there that's going to throw you off, and of course that is the iris, and that is also the violet. Now this one's interesting. So when I first sprayed this one on, I knew it reminded me of something right off the bat. And I was trying to figure out what it was, and it wasn't La Nuit de l'Homme or any of its flankers. It was reminding me of something different. And I realized what this reminded me of, and this is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but it kind of reminds me of Dior Fahrenheit Le Parfum. And the reason why is because this mixes violet and vanilla. Fahrenheit Le Parfum also mixes violet and vanilla, and that's why I love that flanker. If you haven't tried Dior Fahrenheit Le Parfum, you have to get your nose on it. It's kind of boozy, it's warm, it's sexy, it's got this ozonic freshness. It is a killer fragrance, and that mixture in that fragrance, the Dior, is also somewhat prominent here with this one. Now, as it dries down, it will veer away from that, and it gets back into a bit more of a sweeter type of scent. The violet does start to go away. The iris starts to come forward more, giving it a powdery kind of floral sweetness. But yeah, right off the opening, reminding me a little bit of that Dior. And also what's interesting about this one is it has a little bit of a effervescent, bright fizziness to it. Almost a boozy quality. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of something like C.H. Min Privé. It's got that whiskey up top with some of that leather, some of that tonka bean as well, I believe. Maybe not tonka bean, but there is a sweetness in C.H. Privé. I know it's whiskey and leather. And again, it kind of reminded me a little bit of this one, especially right off the opening. Again, as this one does start to dry down, it goes away from that. It goes in its own direction. But right off the bat, reminded me of a few heavy hitters there. This one is all about that vanilla. It's all about the iris in here. It makes it powdery. It makes it sweet. If you're a fan of iris fragrances, that's just a bit of a different twist on it. This one right here is one you'll have to check out. I really, really like how this one turned out as well. It's nice for someone who is more of a collector, someone who wants something a bit different. If the other flankers like Electrique and the Eau de Parfum just kind of bore you and make you shake your head, something like L'Intense will really grab your attention, and you may be surprised that this is a La Nuit de l'Homme flanker. Quality is great, the blend is great, it really is unique, and for some it may be a bit challenging, so this is one that is worth checking out. Out of the whole entire line, I would say this one here is going to be the most challenging. It's going to be for the true enthusiast and the true collector. Anyone can like this one depending on your taste, but I think this one will appeal to people who just want something a bit more different and exciting. This one also sticks around on the skin for a while. Longevity right around the 8.5 pushing 9 hour mark. It's a strong one. It'll really last through my skin for the whole day and then some. Really nice longevity there. Projection on par with all the others. You know the drill. First hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, pushes up pretty good. After that, it does start to settle down and become closer to your skin. Last one we're going to be talking about today, sadly, is discontinued. So when I do these videos, if I have the discontinued fragrances on hand, then I will throw them into these videos. If I don't have them and I can't get them without spending a ridiculous amount of money, like on eBay or something like that, then I just don't include those ones. But I am lucky to have this one right here. This is La Nuit de l'Homme Frozen Cologne. So this one, I believe, came right after La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Toilette, and they did, unfortunately, discontinue this one, which is a shame. This one has geranium, tonka, black pepper, and cedarwood as some of the main notes. So the geranium gives it a fresh mintiness up top. There's a bit of a watery feel in this one. Cedarwood, similar to La Nuit de l'Homme. The original gives it a bit of a dry type of smell. The black pepper replacing the cardamom, giving it that nice spicy opening, that nice spicy kick up top. And then the tonka bean just giving a little bit of a powdery, sweet, sexy touch. It doesn't go too sweet. It is a fresher version of La Nuit de l'Homme, which is what you'd expect by the name and the bottle, Frozen Cologne. It is very close to La Nuit de l'Homme, even though the note breakdown may not seem like it. Just fresher, lighter, and more airy. That's really the best way to put it. And I think it was an incredible flanker. Really, really well done with this one. Why they discontinued it, who really knows? Probably lack of sales, but that's usually how it goes. But I could be wrong. But I think this one, really well done. If you can get a bottle for a price that isn't just insane, it's worth picking up if you like La Nuit de l'Homme. I believe these are going for $200+ for a full bottle. I've seen, half used up bottles for less than that, but really at that point, it's not worth it unless you're a die-hard collector and you can, justify doing that. I would just kind of accept the fact that, hey, it's kind of just gone. If you can grab a bottle for cheap, go for it. That would be great. You're going to have to be conservative with it because you may not be able to get one for a good price again. But for most of you, I would say just forget about it. You have tons of other flankers to choose from. Performance on this one is going to be a little bit less than a lot of the others. Longevity, right around in that 6.5 hour mark. Projection pops off pretty good in the opening due to the light nature of this one. Projects a little bit stronger than a lot of the others, but then dies down pretty quick as per usual. So now we get to the part of the video where I tell you my favorites and which one or which ones I would recommend you purchase. So for me, the original La Nuit de l'Homme is always going to be in my heart. It's always really going to be one that I enjoy and I love. And so that's kind of an obvious one. Yes, I do still think La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Toilette is still worth picking up. It is still a relevant scent and it is still worth having around in your collection. We're going to set that one aside. La Nuit de l'Homme, great fragrance. And in terms of the other flankers, which, there are quite a few, it's kind of hard to digest, but hopefully this video has helped you out so far. If you want something that's going to be the most unique, the most different, still alluding to La Nuit de l'Homme a little bit, but also kind of giving you something a bit new and refreshing, La Nuit de l'Homme LINTENSE is going to be the way to go. The iris in there is awesome. It's not too lipsticky. It's nothing quite like De Rome Intense. It is more of a fresh iris. But the vanilla and violet combination in that one is a killer combo. That is a great fragrance there. If you want something that maybe is a bit less challenging, still going to have that mass appeal, still going to have that great performance, still is going to be something that you can wear in evenings, wear on dates, whatever, La Nuit de l'Homme Le Parfum is also a really good way to go. I would say those two flankers right there are the best from the line. Frozen Cologne, obviously excluded since you can't get it. The Eau de Parfum, that one I just don't really like that much. It just doesn't do it for me. And Eau Electrique is good if you want an Eros type of vibe, but if you have Eros, I have Eros EDT and Eau de Parfum. Really, I don't need Eau Electrique. Not something I reach for. Le Parfum and L'Intense are the two best in my opinion. And of course, that's talking about flankers. The original La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Toilette, still an OG. That's worth having around. So guys, that was going to do it for me. That was my thoughts on the entire La Nuit de l'Homme line. Let me know what you think down below. Which one's your favorite? Do you still like the EDT? Do you still wear that one often? Or do you reach for some of the other ones in the line? Let me know down below. If you have interest in any of these fragrances, make sure you hit the links down below and grab them at a nice discount. They'll take you to FragranceNet where you can get them at a really good price. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.